Welcome to the Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton. I am Gerry. Joining me today, I have Max and Terry. Terry and Max, the guys. We are the trio that will be bringing you Everton-based conversation today. So, let's move on. Mason Holgate sees himself as a starting center back for us right now. He's starting center back every single game, and he's played. I remember this was a truth bomb dropped on me. I feel like, Max, you may have been the one who dropped it, basically saying he's played like every minute ever, except for when he's played center mid, which he actually did fill in some this past weekend. Just proving himself to be really reliable. I remember previously I had issues with Mason Holgate's concentration. He would play well, and then he'd slip up and do something silly. And we don't see a lot of that this time around, or much of any of it, actually. And I think some have even been advocating him as a possible starting center mid for us, because he's done well, and because our center mid depth is not great either. We're just kind of, two positions he plays, we happen to be thin at both because of injuries. So guys, let's talk a little bit about Holgate. I think at the beginning of the season, we were kind of not sure what we had at the moment, or we felt like we knew, and he had been on loan at West Brom playing as a right back, and people had discussed him as right back depth for this season. So, Max, you seem like you're chomping at the bit.
I love Mason Holgate.
You go. What you got?
I love Mason Holgate. I always have.
Yeah.
I always have loved Mason Holgate. Obviously, there's just that same career path of John Stones there, coming through the Barnsley Academy and making the early switch over to Everton. But I don't know. I know there's obviously that the point of contention with where's his best position. And I think even early on in his career, when he just signed for the club and we were getting like glimpses of him at right back, it might be a blunt assumption to make, but I just don't think he's got the physique to be a right back. He carried it off astutely in the Championship, because I'm going off David's recent article on Mason Holgate. I'll give that a quick read before I come on, and you look, Dave's got his heat map from when he played at West Brom, and up and down that touchline, which was something I didn't think he'd necessarily be able to do given his physique, just given that he's just slim and tall. But I think as he's proved definitely this season, in those central areas, he can be a real force to be reckoned with. I know I hit you with that stat in terms of his successive games. And this season, it's over 2,000 minutes at centre half, which I think it's something that you do need to bring up when you discussing Mason Holgate, is that he's dislodged Michael Keane from his starting position, which, not to sound harsh, but it wouldn't take much, because Michael Keane and you could even say Yerry Mina up until these recent weeks hasn't been blowing anyone away. As you said, Gerry, rightly so. We have been thin in central midfield, central defence. But I think the fact that Mason Holgate stepped up and really asserted himself, particularly in the post Silva, under Ferguson, he was exceptional, and Ancelotti seems to have taken to him with just as much eagerness to get him involved and get him playing minutes. And I think someone of Ancelotti's calibre to be seeing that in Mason Holgate speaks volumes of what he could, where he could potentially go. I know it's quite comical. I keep seeing all like the little like fanboy accounts calling him Mason Maldini now, which I wouldn't go that far. I don't think he's Paolo Maldini reincarnated, but just that ilk of player, I'm just a huge fan of, a player who's not shy to be on the ball. He's always showing he wants to be in control, and he's improving game by game. I think a stat that Dave come out in his piece is, in terms of defensive duels, he ranks 8th out of all the centre halves in the league, and you've got the likes of Tomori, Van Dijk, your upper echelon of centre halves who were there. And I think just given Everton's current situation, where, let's be honest, I know we've seen an upturn since Ancelotti's come in, but it's still not great. It's not where we want to be. and we're not exactly seeing the football that we want to see. So for Mason Holgate to be a standout of these last few months, I think it's really promising.
Yeah, the consistency. He's consistent. He's bringing not just the snide he used to bring. We were used to him bringing like being savvy on the ball, not being afraid. But at this point, I think it's helping him that Ancelotti has liked to, play out of the back a decent amount. He's getting the center backs involved more, and I feel like that's helped Mason Holgate as well as far as concentration, being a part of the game more.
Definitely.
Being a part of the build-up more. So Terry, as far as Mason Holgate's concerned, go wherever you want to go with this. I have a few questions, but I have a feeling you'll look at them and go, I have a Terry statement. So where do you want to hit up as far as Mason Holgate's concerned? Because he has proven himself to be solid in center mid, but he hasn't played there a lot. I know that's where I think we hear a lot of people saying he might even start there this next match. I don't know. We'll talk more about that in the Palace segment. But go wherever you want to go on this.
I just think I need to put my hand up and say I was a Mason Holgate doubter. Like, my position on Holgate for the longest time was he needs to, get a run of games, maybe not even at Everton, and see how he does. And obviously he went out to West Brom, but I was a bit disappointed when he went to West Brom and he was playing right back, and I was thinking, you'll never be a right back here. We've got other right backs, and I want to see him at centre half. And then as soon as I made sort of me mind up on him, which was around the Lincoln game in the Cup this year, I was like, yeah, I've made my mind up. He's not good enough. I just don't think he's going to make it. And how wrong I was. He's had a massive turnaround since then. And I sort of look at him the same way I look at Calvert-Lewin. I think this season they've had that season where the both of them have gone from being a young player to being a senior player, and deserved first teamers. Nobody can look at either of them two now and see them as some of the younger players, because there's younger players in the squad than them. If you look at up front, Moise Keane and Dominic Calvert-Lewin is a couple of years older than him, so you can't look at Calvert-Lewin and say he's the young striker anymore. And same with Holgate. The other players of the club. You look at, Lewis Gibson, now Jared Branthwaite and whatnot. You're going, yeah, he's been at the club several seasons under several managers. He's now one of the senior players. Is he good enough? And going off recent form, you'd have to say, yeah, he's been fantastic since the change in manager. He's just had everything we needed and you want from a player. He's tenacious. He's up for a battle. Had the proper Everton player qualities. But I think the biggest thing that's helped him this season is his pace. He looks fantastic because every other centre back is slow, and he's even looked good at centre midfield because all the midfielders are slow. So he goes into centre midfield as an emergency role for Man United, and every time he's gone in since, he makes the rest of the midfielders look terrible because he can get around quicker than they can, and he's the difference confidence makes. He's making better passes with the ball, better decisions. He's not losing it like he used to with his concentration. That's because confidence is flowing through him, and he wants the ball a lot now. He doesn't want to. I've always thought, even when I was unsure on him, that he's better the more involved he is. And I think I said that when we were talking about him earlier in the season, what he's like as a midfielder. The more touches of the ball he gets, the better he is. Against Watford, the one of the pressing triggers for Watford was when the two centre-backs got the ball, and you could just see that Yerry Mina struggled more with it than Mason Holgate. Mason Holgate would just beat the press every time. He'd just come away from them and release the ball with a decent pass, and that's what... when he was playing well for us, that's what John Stones used to do. You couldn't press him; he was too comfortable in possession. Whereas the centre backs who aren't comfortable try and get rid of it and under pressure, and sometimes make mistakes. So he's in a purple patch now, and I'm really happy to see that we're going to open new contract talks with him, because I thought we were going into this season with 2.5 centre-backs. I was unsure on Holgate, and he's currently in the best form of all the centre-backs, and not just that centre-back. He's played everywhere, hasn't he? Like, obviously centre midfield, centre-back. He's played right back and left back for periods of games. He's just one of those players that squads needs. Like, the best teams and the best squads have those utility players who can, cover, when there's an injury and there's no natural fit for the injured player. Like, left back's a good example. He's a right-footed centre half, so left back for most players like that would be really uncomfortable, and he doesn't look it. So I put my hand up. I was a non-believer, and now I've been converted.
I think what's worth mentioning as well is that willingness to take responsibility from again, it is a weird one because you want to call him a young player, but just by virtue of being at the club for so many years, you would consider him as one of the more senior figures in the squad. Similar to Calvert-Lewin, similar to Tom Davies. If you'll allow me, I'd just like to brush up on me statistics because I did get one of them wrong. I mentioned Van Dijk. I mentioned Van Dijk in the defensive duels. I said he's eighth out of the centre halves in terms of his defensive duels success rate. Ahead of him are Hanley of Norwich, Dawson of Watford, Evans of Leicester, Stones of City, and Tomori of Chelsea. So surprisingly, Van Dijk isn't anywhere to be seen. But that Watford game, like you were saying, Terry, was absolutely massive. He won 7 of his 8 defensive duels, 6 of his 8 aerial duels, and made 17 possession recoveries, which I think is an absolute monster of a stat. That's massive.
That's so good.
So,
oh my gosh,
I love it. And I mean, I know we're Everton fans, and we're not meant to support the national team and all that, but I think it warrants an England call-up.
I'm
with you on that.
He deserves it. Like, he might be unfortunate that we're so close to a tournament that the manager doesn't want to introduce new players at that point. But obviously, I don't, like yourself, don't care if they ever play for England. But I'm happy when they do because they like it. Like, it's a big deal to them. It's part of their career ambitions, and he at the minute is one of the best English centre backs. Not just over a 2 or 3 game spell. He's been doing it over a couple of months. He's been absolutely colossal. And he's deserved it, and he would fit right. He wouldn't look out of place at international level, which is crazy when you think going into the season we were worried that will he be good enough cover for the players we've got, and he's absolutely left Michael Keane, who started the season as an England centre back, in the dust.
To where Michael Keane is just sort of coming in late to shore us up at the very end of games. You know what I mean? As just to plug in. Come on in, Mike. Help us plug up a little bit. Help us condense the middle. But Holgate is a player. Like when we first brought him in, I was actually oddly enough, I was actually concerned about his size more than anything. I feel like every time a young kid comes in and we buy a young center back, I'm always worried. Okay, are they going to be too thin? Because I feel like it's such a physical league. I was worried about his size. I was worried about his strength and height. I knew he was really poised on the ball, and he was great on the ball, but I didn't know how he was good. But he's tenacious mentally, and I actually think that a decent amount of that covers up for some of the what he lacks in some of those other other areas. I think it's hard to make up for height, but I also think, what is he, 6 feet, 6'1"?
Something like that.
Something like that. Yeah, he's which is
all for center. There's a lot of good center backs. Yeah. I mean, he's not short for a center back. He's short. I feel like when I look at a picture of him, it seems like he should be short, and then I look it up and I'm like, he's not that bad. But he's a player where I've always had confidence when he had the ball. It was always when players were cutting past him, breaking behind him. Was he going to actually see them?
Yeah.
That happened too often last season, especially.
I remember the West Ham game last season at home when they beat us 3-1. I think that was Marco Silva's first home loss as Everton manager, and I think Yarmolenko gave him a tour at the time, and I think that was a catalyst to putting him out on loan to West Brom. But
I think you're right.
Like all good players, I think he's reacted exceptionally well. And try this one on for size. I've seen his management company put out a little media activity thing that he did with them, and he's just hitting them with questions like, what's your favourite this, what's your favourite that, and he was asked who was in for Rumble, Sergio Ramos. So I think that explains the treatment of Firmino in the derby.
Nice. Okay, I feel like we should end with that because that should say enough. So you guys good? Anything else on Mason Holgate? Yeah, I feel pretty good about him, and I'm really excited to continue building on that core of young players that are brutally talented, very confident, and skilled, and excited that he's starting to fill out and work out well at Everton. It's awesome. So I guess that's it for our Mason Holgate Let's Say Good Stuff About Him segment. If you're digging the videos, please subscribe to the Toffee Blues YouTube channel. We really appreciate it. If you want more Terry, Liverpool Echo fan Gerry, he types words about Everton and they print it. They put it in there. Okay, so check his Twitter. He'll tell you when and where he's going to be there. Max has his own private venture, Carlisle Podcast. Check that out. You can check out his Twitter. He'll tell you when and where you can find that. And anything else I need to plug for you guys? Or is that doing it?
That's good.
Thank you, sir.
All right, so we're gonna end this video, but we'll be back in a little bit. Talk about a match preview. Palace. That's a match that's happening. So for these guys, we'll talk to you later. Bye.